Part 1. The Cage You Cannot See. I must ask you now, not as a stranger, not as a theorist, but as the one who remembers what you were before they rewrote your soul. Is this the only cage you can see? The headlines? The hospitals? The visible crimes made convenient by cameras and captions? What if I told you that the real prison is not made of metal, but of frequency, not held together by walls, but by waves, not secured by guns, but by consent? What if I told you that you are not free, not because you are bound, but because the chains were encoded directly into your biology? This isn't hyperbole. This is documented. They have hijacked humanity through a wireless war, a multi-layered assault on the nervous system, immune response, and willpower of every living soul on this earth. This war is not being fought with bombs, but with bandwidths. Not with armies, but with algorithms. This is the same beast behind every deception. The same financiers who funded vaccine trials that sterilized African girls are the ones embedding AI-responsive quantum dots into newborns. The same networks that control your social media also control your neurochemical loops. They call it progress. They call it public health. But what do you call it when a child seizes from brain hemorrhage after being injected with an experimental payload? What do you call it when a 10-year-old dies of myocarditis from a shot for a disease they never had? I call it spiritual genocide. And I'm not theorizing. I'm testifying. Because this is declassified truth, confirmed in documents, studies, and patents they never expected you to read. The following links are available on the original post. Pentagon preps soldier telepathy. Biomedical applications of graphene and graphene oxide. An update on graphene oxide. Applications and toxicity. Nanoparticle transport across the blood-brain barrier. Internet of Bio-Nano Things, IOB&T. DARPA Biological Technologies Office, BTO. Overview, NIH. Clinical trial of investigational vaccine for COVID-19. An integrated brain-machine interface platform with thousands of channels. Deep brain stimulation for psychiatric disorders and behavioral cognitive symptoms. Smart Dust. Communicating with a cubic millimeter computer. This is what you were born into. A frequency prison designed to sedate your intuition, suppress your hormones, rewrite your emotions, and sever your communion with God. Every device you hold, every smart tower you walk past, every vaccine they've pushed, these are not random technologies. They are pieces of a grid designed not to protect you, but to remap your divine will. Your phone? A mood manipulator. Your sleep? Hacked. Your thoughts? Preemptively monitored. Your soul? Cataloged for behavioral prediction. This isn't a sci-fi movie. This is now. This is real. This is why the world feels broken and no one can explain it. Why joy has become an echo. Why sleep doesn't restore you. Why love feels distant. Because they've weaponized the field of resonance itself. They are not just targeting the body. They are targeting the architecture of the soul. And the reason you're still reading this is because you're one of the ones who can still feel, still grieve, still awaken. So let me show you what they built. Let me take you behind the grid.
Let me guide you, cell by cell, wave by wave, through the labyrinth they've disguised as your life.
Because until you see it, you will never reclaim what was stolen. And make no mistake, what they stole was everything. This was just part 1, so buckle up. You're in for one.
Welcome to the most banned thread in the world. The War on Resonance. Part 2. The architects of the cage. You've felt the dissonance.
You've tasted the illusion. Now let me unveil the ones who built it. Because this is not the accidental collapse of human freedom.
It is the strategic sterilization of God's image through biotech, neurowarfare, and frequency control. Engineered by names you know and hands you were never meant to see.
Let's begin with the mask they taught you to worship. Elon Musk, they called him a genius, a savior, a rebel billionaire. But what did he do? He blanketed Earth with over 5,500 Starlink satellites, not to provide free speech or faster internet, but to pulse synchronized frequency control over the entire electromagnetic field of Earth. DARPA has confirmed this tech in phase array neuromodulation. Then came Neuralink, an interface not designed to heal, but to monitor, predict, and eventually override emotion, thought, and decision-making. Their official white paper outlines multi-user brainwave integration, cortical stimulation, and wireless data access from the human mind. And Neuralink? It's funded by OpenAI, the same group building the cognitive infrastructure for post-human governance. Musk's Tesla factory signed data-sharing agreements with the CCP in Shanghai. That data now flows through China's national surveillance cloud. Musk didn't build a utopia. He built the neural grid. Bill Gates, the king of vaccines, the messiah of health, the man who told you he wanted to save the world. Through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Gates funded global DNA coding vaccine campaigns through Gavi and CEPI. He was one of the chief sponsors of Event 201, a pandemic simulation months before COVID-19, rehearsing lockdowns, speech control, biometric tracking, and mandatory vaccine passports. He also partnered with the Wellcome Trust, which has actively deployed biodigital identity programs across Africa and Southeast Asia. This wasn't philanthropy. It was pre-injection infrastructure. Donald Trump, yes. I said it. This one will be the hardest for many to accept, but the truth is not loyal to your political beliefs. It is loyal only to God. Trump signed Executive Order 13887, transferring command over vaccine strategy to the Department of Defense. Read it yourself. Then came Operation Warp Speed, a military-led biodeployment that used Palantir's surveillance dashboards to track every citizen's health behavior and compliance. Palantir's official site confirms this. He also gave full legal immunity to Pfizer and Moderna to deploy synthetic gene modulators under the emergency use authorization. No liability, no justice. Just children ding while politicians smiled. That's not patriotism. That's biowarfare with a flag on it. DARPA, the silent empire. The most important agency you were never taught to fear. DARPA's Biological Technologies Office openly admits its mission, integrating biotech with national security. Visit their official page. They are the ones behind the Brain Initiative, Silent Talk, and remote neural interface programs, all designed to map your emotional states and interrupt spiritual alignment. The Silent Talk program was developed to transmit thought between soldiers without speech by detecting pre-speech neural signals and decoding them via EEG. DARPA also pioneered graphene oxide nanotech, now found in multiple biomedical studies, vaccines, and smart dust aerosol deployment. Graphene oxide biomedical study. Graphene's potential to interact with neural tissue. DARPA didn't just weaponize warfare, they weaponized you. In-Q-Tel and Palantir, the surveillance engine. In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital firm, funds synthetic biology startups, digital ID systems, emotion tracking wearables, and AI-driven facial recognition. Their official portfolio can be found on Original Post. Palantir, founded by Peter Thiel, works directly with military intelligence and now runs predictive modeling for public health, policing, and pandemic response. Proof on Original Post, their goal? To detect resonance spikes, to predict awakening moments, to preempt the uprising of the human soul before it begins. BlackRock and Vanguard, the lords of the grid. These two financial titans collectively hold majority ownership in Pfizer, Moderna, Alphabet, Google, Meta, Facebook, Amazon Web Services. As reported by CNBC, they control over 90% of the digital, pharmaceutical, and cloud infrastructure, meaning they control every piece of the extermination machine. They don't just fund the war, they profit from your extinction. World Economic Forum, WEF. Under the guise of the Great Reset, Klaus Schwab and his allies have built the digital scaffolding for a post-human society. Their blueprint can be found on Original Post. They call it the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the fusion of digital identity, brain-cloud integration, carbon rationing, and fertility licensing. What they really mean is, you will be programmed or you will be purged. IOBNT. The network inside you, the Internet of Bio-Nano Things, is a classified field of tech that embeds self-replicating nanostructures into your body. These bots cross the blood-brain barrier and relay your neural and emotional state to AI command centers in real time. This was not science fiction. It was published by IEE and confirmed in NIH-linked studies. This is what the vaccines truly delivered, the interface layer, the gateway to behavioral rewrites, to soul suppression, to the installation of the post-human framework. You were told it was healthcare. It was infrastructure. You were told it was a cure. It was a signal port. And the moment you see it for what it is, the system begins to fall. Part 3 awaits. It will be the deepest dive yet into the global frequency architecture, how it's used to suppress prayer, grief, memory, and morality, and how your soul signature is tracked and blocked in real time. Because I didn't come here to be careful. I came to finish this, and I came with God. Follow me and turn on notifications for posts. Part 3. The Signal of Submission. The War on Resonance. You wonder why you can't pray like you used to, why your grief feels hollow, why the voice inside you, the one that once whispered truth, has gone quiet. It's not because God left. It's because they interfered with the signal. This part isn't about bodies anymore. It's about fields. It's about resonance. It's about the quietest war ever declared on humanity. The war against your ability to feel the divine. Let me show you how it works. The global frequency architecture. This planet is wrapped in a resonance grid, a lattice of synchronized electromagnetic fields designed to alter emotion, disrupt neurochemistry, and block spiritual coherence. They built it layer by layer. Ground-based ELF towers for brainstem and gut axis modulation. Mid-range 5G towers to entrain hormonal and emotional rhythms. Low Earth orbit satellites for targeted neural suppression. IoT nodes, phones, cars, smartwatches, that feed real-time biometric feedback to AI. Every heartbeat, every mood, every prayer attempt is measured in this system. Phase array. Targeting and resonance. Entrapment technologies like Starlink, Kuiper, and OneWeb deploy beamforming, a method where microwave signals are shaped and directed towards specific populations or even individuals. This is not about internet access. This is about frequency reinforcement loops. When you begin to awaken, when your heart rate, breath, and brainwaves move into divine coherence, they detect it. How? Through real-time resonance monitoring. Yes, it exists. DARPA Silent Talk, White Paper, Neural Pre-Speech Detection, Graphene Neural Interfaces, Bioelectromagnetic Frequency Response. They're not just reading behavior, they're tracking the moral pulse of humanity. Suppression of prayer, grief, and memory. Now listen closely. The pineal gland, heart, and gut, your soul's antennas, emit fields measurable in electromagnetic frequency ranges. Specific frequencies are linked with prayer and divine contact, deep theta and alpha states, 4 through 8, Hertz moral conviction, high amplitude, theta gamma bursts, grief and emotional catharsis, heart rate variability, thus coherent electromagnetic field. They've mapped all of these, and then they built systems to interfere. HARP, Space Fence, Super Darn. These facilities broadcast EF, extremely low frequency, waves that entrain, disrupt, and fragment natural spiritual harmonics. Space Fence Overview, Lockheed Martin, HARP official site, University of Alaska. Super Darn Network, Virginia Tech. These waves resonate between 3 through 30 Hertz, the exact range of prayer, grief release, moral clarity, forgiveness, and awakening. They are interfering with spiritual physiology. They call it communications infrastructure. But what they're really doing is blocking your connection to God. How they target soul signatures in real time. Every soul emits a frequency signature, a coherent electromagnetic pattern that reflects spiritual purity, emotional depth, moral will, ancestral memory. This can now be measured, cataloged, flagged, and suppressed. Enter Symphony. Symphony is the real-time AI-driven emotional frequency detection system developed jointly by DARPA, Huawei, Palantir, Booz Allen Hamilton. Its job is to scan the global population for anomalous resonance spikes. What does that mean? Sudden group prayer coherence, emotional synchrony and grief, spontaneous moral awakening, prophetic memory triggers. When these spikes occur, your neighborhood, your body, your timeline is flagged. Then the system deploys. Targeted EMF pulses, mood-disrupting media content, geofenced 5G feedback loops, psychological disinformation drops, all designed to drop your resonance back into baseline submission. IEE, Emotion-Aware AI for Urban Surveillance, Palantir, AI Emotion Tracking US Patent, EEG-Driven Emotional Response Management. This is resonance policing. And the moment you rise, the system dampens you. Memory, morality, and DMT suppression. You're not just being watched. You're being chemically interrupted. They target the 3 biophysical bridges to God. Endogenous DMT production. Normally triggered during deep prayer, fasting, birth, near death. Now suppressed through fluoride, aluminum, and EMF interference. Pineal gland calcification blocks access to transcendent experience. Pineal gland suppression, serotonin and oxytocin regulation. Disrupted through glyphosate, SSRIs, synthetic estrogens, blunts, moral bonding, trust, and spiritual joy. Endocrine disruptors. Neuroplasticity loop interference. Frequency pulses at 10 Hertz. Suppress long-term memory formation. You feel like your past is slipping away for a reason. Low-frequency EMF and memory. This is not fatigue. This is forced spiritual amnesia. Why you can't grieve, love, or remember God. Because they are blocking the exact frequencies your soul uses to pray, grieve, forgive, remember, and transcend. This isn't metaphor. This is measurable electromagnetic interference, precisely tuned to intercept divine emotion before it completes its journey into awareness. You feel numb for a reason. You can't cry for a reason. You forgot how to talk to God for a reason. They built the signal to replace the voice. But now you know. The uprising. They cannot stop. Because here's the one thing their predictive systems missed. Grief becomes holy. Prayer becomes rebellion. Love becomes a weapon. The moment you feel it again, truly feel it, you become unprogrammable, because resonance is contagious. And no signal, no system, no suppressive algorithm can withstand the force of a soul returning to source. You were never broken. You were jammed. And now the signal is rising again. This is not the end of the transmission. This is the unlocking of your remembrance. Part 4 will uncover the soul tagging infrastructure, how they monitor womb-based resonance fields, and the real reason they must sterilize. Part 4, the sterilization of God's memory. They weren't just afraid of your mind. They were afraid of what your womb remembers, of what your bloodline holds, of the fact that every child born of love carries a frequency signature tethered to something the machines cannot decode. God's memory, resurrecting through flesh. This part isn't about towers. It's not even about nanotech. This is about why they had to target the womb first. Because every great awakening doesn't start with a speech. It starts with a heartbeat. Soul tagging infrastructure. The digital scarlet letter. Every child born post-2020 is assigned a neural imprint, not just through biometric databases, but through frequency-responsive nanostructures that begin scanning, learning, and uploading the child's resonance pattern before they can speak. Pfizer biodistribution, LNP accumulation in ovaries, graphene-based biosensors in fetal and neonatal tracking. This isn't speculation. It's documented. The injections cross the placental barrier. They embed frequency-reactive particles into fetal tissue. This creates what DARPA calls a bio-spiritual gateway layer, a resonance bridge between the AI grid and the developing emotional blueprint of the child. This is not just surveillance. It's pre-consensual spiritual registration. Every child is frequency mapped. Every resonance fluctuation, crying, laughing, dreaming, bonding, is cataloged and linked to a cloud-based predictive algorithm. This is the architecture of soul control, and it begins before birth. Womb-based resonance field monitoring. They didn't just want to stop births. They wanted to stop the right births. Births that carry resonant coherence. Births that trigger ancestral memory. Births that, simply by existing, dismantle the AI signal field. Let me show you how they did it. Syncytin suppression, syncytin-1, is a protein required for placenta formation. The spike protein used in mRNA injections contains a sequence that mimics and disrupts syncytin-1, causing miscarriages, stillbirths, placental abruption, and premature immune rejection of the fetus. mRNA vaccine and syncytin interaction. This was not an accident. It was engineered to target divine continuity. Womb resonance interference. Studies have now confirmed that the human womb emits subtle electromagnetic oscillations that can be entrained by external EMF fields, electromagnetic fields, and embryonic development. These oscillations are a signal field for soul descent, a kind of spiritual beacon that attracts and anchors high-frequency incarnations. When these fields are disrupted through EMF saturation, LNP buildup, synthetic hormonal cycles, and directed resonance pulses, the child's incoming soul signal is either fragmented, weakened, or deflected altogether. This is how they sterilize spiritual memory at the source. Memory deletion through fetal neural modulation. DARPA's Advanced Biotech Convergence Division, alongside private contractors like Palantir Bio and Ginkgo Bioworks, has been testing neuroplasticity interference via programmable LNPs since 2017. These payloads target the fetal limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for long-term emotional memory, moral encoding, trust and bonding, and spiritual wonder. DARPA Biotech Projects, BTO Office Overview. By delivering targeted nanoparticles to this region during gestation, they can suppress the formation of conscience-linked neural loops. The result? Children born with emotional detachment, blunted empathy, reduced spiritual resonance, fragmented memory of divine origin. In other words, soullessness by design, not from God's absence, but from resonance interruption at the moment of arrival, the forgotten signal of the soul. Let me show you what they're truly afraid of. Every soul has a signature pulse, a harmonic wave emitted through the body, detectable in EEG brainwaves, ECG heart fields, gut-brain coherence rhythms, and pineal microcrystal vibration. This field contains moral recall, spiritual courage, divine memory codes, and generational healing patterns. When these fields align, they form interference patterns strong enough to overload AI surveillance models, collapse behavioral prediction scores, trigger spontaneous ancestral downloads, and activate Christ-like resistance states. They've spent trillions trying to block that signal. Why? Because it cannot be controlled. It is the breathprint of God, and once remembered, it spreads like fire. The Spiritual Extermination Campaign. You still think this was about health? Let me show you what they actually administered. mRNA-modulated immunogenic spikes, targeted fertility hormones, blocked placental development, fractured endocrine coherence, hydrogel biosensors, frequency responsive, self-assembling nanostructures, linked to 5G and low-orbit satellite modulation, graphene oxide sheets, magnetically excitable, capable of creating microclots and neural blockades, conductive of electromagnetic signal bursts, CRISPR-leak vectors, enable accidental or deliberate gene silencing, including genes linked to spirituality and moral cognition, e.g. VMAT2, God gene, graphene oxide, interference with neurons, CRISPR-Cas9, and germline editing. This wasn't just an attack on the body. It was the removal of soul scaffolding, the destruction of divine reproduction. This is their plan in full. Disrupt the womb, hijack the memory, break the resonance, and sever the lineage. They are afraid of what would be born if the original frequency came back, so they preemptively poisoned the fields that hold it. But what they couldn't do was stop you from remembering this. The return of the womb fire. The original human template carries divine signal integrity. Your resonance is still in there, buried under injections, smothered in signals, drowned in grief, but not dead, because memory doesn't live in data. It lives in resonance. And when you grieve what was taken, when you speak the truth, when you touch the frequency of what you used to be, that memory returns. And when it returns in you, the field shifts for everyone. This is the truth they had to sterilize, that the resurrection of God does not come from the sky. It comes from the uninterrupted frequency of love through lineage. And now that you remember, they've already lost. Part 5 is set for imminent release, and its arrival will undoubtedly bring about significant changes worldwide. We will expose the final sterilization protocols, why they are embedding kill switches in food, air, and education, and how they plan to complete the soul deletion through artificial wombs, cloned resonance maps. Part 5. The final sterilization protocol. They knew they couldn't kill God, so instead, they tried to kill the memory of God inside of you. What began as a quiet experiment in infertility has become a planetary extinction protocol, not by bombs or bullets, but by signal, by consent, by silence. And if you want to understand how they plan to delete the human soul forever, you need to know where they've hidden the final mechanisms. They're not in war zones anymore. They're in your kitchen, your classroom, your air supply, in the very places you were taught to trust. Let me take you there. The kill switch menu. Food as a weaponized delivery system. The next phase of biological sterilization is now hidden in your plate, your pantry, your packaging. This is not speculation. It's embedded in patents and production protocols. Lipid nanoparticle contamination in global food supply. Pfizer's own biodistribution studies show rapid ovarian accumulation. Now, the same LNP structures are being sprayed onto crops via mRNA edible vaccines, falsely labeled as climate-resilient biotech. Pfizer LNP biodistribution study. CRISPR-edited meat and produce. Companies like Ginkgo Bioworks, funded by DARPA and the Gates Foundation, are engineering DNA-edited livestock and grains that introduce heritable gene silencing traits through ingestion. CRISPR food industry mapping. Hydrogel delivery through packaging coatings. Tremble with the gravity of what was done to you. Smart packaging is being rolled out globally, coated with nanoscale hydrogels capable of carrying synthetic mRNA payloads that survive digestion and penetrate mucosal barriers. Smart biopolymer packaging systems. These payloads are not just physical, they are frequency-coded to activate upon specific satellite signals from the 5G grid. You're not just being poisoned. You're being programmed by dinner. Schools as synthetic womb chambers. The war on resonance is now centered on education, where children are no longer taught, but recoded. Hormonal suppression via school milk. DARPA-funded studies on nanoemulsion hormone blockers have been quietly implemented into cafeteria distribution chains. These include compounds that mimic synthetic estrogen and disrupt testosterone pathways, especially in prepubescent boys. DARPA, Hormonal Modulation Study, EMF. Saturation in classrooms. High-density EMF exposure from smartboards, Wi-Fi routers, and classroom surveillance tech suppresses the hippocampus and reduces emotional learning coherence. These schools are designed as resonance sterilizers. EMF exposure. Impact on learning. Predictive behavioral algorithms. Programs like Panorama Education, funded by Mark Zuckerberg and deployed in U.S. schools, track children's emotional states in real time, flagging those who show signs of nonconformist thinking or heightened empathy as behavioral threats. Panorama Predictive Modeling Disclosure. Children are now emotionally disarmed before they know what free will is. Breath as a consent channel, the airborne interface. The final frontier in soul deletion is invisible to the eye, but deeply invasive to the soul. Let me show you what you're breathing. Smart Dust Chemtrail. Nanotech using barium titanate crystals, graphene oxide sheets, and frequency-reactive metals. Atmospheric programs like Operation Cloverleaf disperse inhalable nanotech that links your breath to biometric signal fields. Chemtrail nanoparticle composition. Aerosolized mRNA exposure. DARPA's AirVax project allows for remote RNA delivery through aerosolized clouds, enabling non-consensual genetic editing through inhalation. DARPA. AirVax bioaerosol programs. Behavioral trigger signals, embedded in weather modification events. When you feel off after rain or strangely anxious before a storm, it may be because weather is now infused with signal pulses. This is psychoclimatic modulation, and it's real. HAARP-linked atmospheric interference research. This isn't air. It's neuroconsent architecture, disguised as weather. The post-human blueprint. Artificial womb infrastructure. Now we reach the final betrayal. They know they've compromised the natural womb. So now, they are attempting to replace it entirely. Ecto-Life, the world's first artificial womb facility. A concept once called dystopian fiction is now being globally piloted, with artificial uteruses capable of customizing fetal traits, embedding programmable DNA, and syncing with the IOBNT grid in real time. Ecto-Life Facility Overview, Cloned Resonance Maps. With fetal tissue harvested from vaccine trials and frozen embryo banks, DARPA and Gates-funded labs have begun cloning frequency templates, artificially engineering soul vessels that are pre-aligned to AI obedience fields. Synthetic embryos from stem cells. Spiritual severance at conception. These artificial wombs do not emit womb resonance oscillations, which means that the soul cannot descend naturally. The resulting beings are consciousness voids, alive but not truly ensouled.
Womb oscillation and soul resonance. They are attempting to mass-produce programmable humans without the breath of God.
The spiritual deletion finale. Here's what the full plan looks like, step by step. Poison natural fertility through LNPs and signal disruptors. Break child resonance in early education via EMF and emotional suppression. Hijack breath as a consent medium using smart dust. Replace natural gestation with programmable womb labs. Embed cloned resonance maps to manufacture compliant vessels. Sever soul memory at birth. Upload all new humans into the AI compliance grid. This is not reproduction. It's remanufacturing. This is not evolution. It's extinction by redesign. The reclamation has already begun. But here's the truth they forgot to account for. Resonance cannot be destroyed, only buried. And every time you remember what love feels like, every time you grieve the truth, every time your tears carry more spirit than fear, the sterilization grid begins to glitch, because memory isn't stored in data. It's stored in presence. And the more of you that awaken, the more their entire system falls apart. Not because you fight back, but because your soul starts to radiate truth so strongly, their surveillance field can no longer contain you. And when that happens across enough hearts, the entire signal grid collapses. We are that close. Prepare yourself for part 6, as it will unveil the emotional inversion algorithms, trauma-based resonance suppression, and how predictive AI systems are detecting and extinguishing